Welcome to Nonprofit Network, powered by Stokes Auction Group. We are a podcast focused on benefit auctions and fundraising events for the nonprofit community. We are a group of fundraising professionals that specialize in raising funds to improve communities of all sizes. And here it is, episode number 30. You going to continue with the creepy stare? Kelly with the creepy stare coming in hot. It does feel like a spooky October with that death scare going on. Oh my gosh. I mean, the power of that stare. You can really move people, I think.
The laser stare.
Lasers. Welcome back. We are here to do another podcast. It is mid-October, and we are in the thick of things. Things are happening. Things are popping off. We're excited, but it definitely feels like an event season.
Things are popping off.
A little tired. We're a little tired.
A little tired. 30.
30. This is episode 30.
Episode 30.
We did it.
Episode 30.
30.
Wow.
3-0, bro.
We surprised ourselves. Yeah,
We are surprising ourselves every day.
Yeah, and shout out to Steven. He was at the WCA class that I did last week, and he sent me a very nice email. He said that he's been loving the podcast.
Oh, yay. Thank you,
Steven. And found a lot of value out of it. So we appreciate you. You've
like
inspired us to keep on keeping on.
Steven, look into my eyes.
Steven, look into my eyes. So let's start off our cast today by talking about, the weekend. Like, what did we get into?
I'm Kelly Schenfeld.
You are.
Polly Schenfeld here. Good to see you guys. Missed you last week.
And my name is Shelby Stokes.
And we missed him last week.
That's
I love it. Thank you.
Yeah, going back and editing it, we were like, oh boy, this is a little, we're missing our third compatriot. Yeah, for sure. But you had a good show on Saturday, Paul.
I did.
Like.
Yep. We did an event for a no-kill cat shelter that I've been a part of for years.
Nice.
And I was in a room with fellow feline fanatics.
Ooh, the triple F. Fellow feline fanatic.
That's how I opened up the whole show.
We should probably look up if you spell fanatic with a PH or an F, though.
Ooh, that's a good idea, right? Good event. We had 24 items. We raised $140,000.
Dang.
We had a couple issues with a little bit of sound, which, can be fixed easily. Just put a couple speakers in the back, I think would fix that. We were in a new venue from where we have done it in the past, and it was a little bit more, there's like 30-foot ceilings, so it was kind of cavernous feeling.
Cavernous feeling?
I see what you did there. What I did want to run by you guys, though, was we've talked about consignment items, and should we have consignment items?
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And our feeling now is, yes, if you think it's going to add something to your event, that you should.
And not take too much money out of the room. Right.
And that may be where this argument goes after I tell you what I'm about to tell you and then get your response. But we had a 7-day, all expenses included trip to Ireland. And it was consigned, and they had to purchase it for $6,500. So our minimum to sell it was $7,000. Well, I sold it for $10,000 each.
Okay.
I sold 2 of them. So you do the math, they basically netted $7,000.
Yeah, no, totally win.
And what was really interesting about this one is where it was placed. The funded need was item 14, and this item was item 6. And it was in a perfect spot, right between the beginning of the live and the funded need, right in a spot where you think where we would traditionally try to do something different. We would do like a raffle drawing here, or maybe do a restaurant frenzy here. Mm-hmm. You get into the first 5 items, you start establishing your rhythm, and then you get something different. And it really helps engage the audience. Well, that's what this item did, because I'm going, folks, I got $8,500. Who give me $9,000? Got it, $9,095. And that really re-engaged the audience. Everybody's like, whoa.
Nice.
And once I sold it for $10,000 and asked the backup bidder if he'd take the second one, he said yes. It just utterly elevated the room and really sent us on a really solid trajectory that led right into the funded need 5 items later, and it was perfect.
Do you think that that item selling at that price point increased the monies brought in the following items?
Yes. Yes, it set a tone of giving. It felt to me like.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of wins in that item specifically. Like having that consignment item and leveraging it to kind of raise the bar of that room sounds like it was worth every penny. Like I think
so.
you can look at that item and really pick it apart, right? You said it cost $65, you sold it for $10. That's only net $3,500. Is that math right?
Yes, that's math.
$3,500 times 2. So I mean, if you just look at that item specifically, I wouldn't say I wouldn't completely endorse it based on that one item. But if it's going to lift your entire room, then it's worth every penny, right?
I thought so. I could just feel the ride.
Mm-hmm.
I could just feel the ride. It was useful in that respect.
Yeah, and I think like this is a good conversation because consignments, there's so many different ways to approach them, and I think really what you got to keep in your mind's eye is like what it's going to do for that room that year. And I think our frustration and the reason we wrote off consignment items for so long and still do pretty quickly at times is because if you just have a room that's all based on consignment, it's the easier way to source your items, but also it's not as beneficial to the bottom end or the line at the or the budget at the end of the night. So you really have to take into consideration where you're going to use them. Kind of rolling from your event over to the one I had on Saturday, I had an event that had not taken place for about 20 years. It was in the city of Tacoma, and they brought it back recently. And I kept asking, why did you guys do away with this event back 20 years ago? And what they said is when we had this event 20, 21 years ago, or whatever it was, there was so much fanfare around the celebration that they would raise like $200,000 or $300,000 and only make like 10 to 20 grand on the back end. So they were basically throwing all of this money into the party, making it the ball of the city that everybody had to go to. But at the end of the day, it didn't make dollars and cents based on what they were bringing in against expenses. So that's why they did away with it 20 years ago. The event we had this weekend was a restart of that movement, right? So the reason I think it kind of plays into what you're saying with consignment items is if you lose the end goal of what you're trying to do, then it's not going to make any sense and you're going to have to move it off the table, right?
Yeah, and and I don't think it's that I disagree necessarily with consignment items, especially if they take your auction and they're launching it in essence, where you're feeling stagnant and it launches you into a new level of giving, right, with people. I support that. I think what I always get hung up on with a consignment item is two things, and this is just me personally. You're taking that $6,500 out of the room, right, times 2, and that could be, if that person is massaged properly, that could be a fund a need or a raise the paddle donor. That's the one, and the other for me is, does that person that's purchasing that for 10 grand understand that only 3,500 of their 10 grand is going to the organization? Because I have yet to show up to an auction where it's made clear that this is a consignment item. In the meeting, we talk about what the minimum is because we need to know that they have to sell it for that in order to pay for it. That if they don't sell it for that, we can't sell it.
Well said.
So for me, if I am bidding on something, an Italy trip, for example, if I'm bidding on that and I'm paying $7,000, I'm going to maybe justify in my mind that it's a little more than I want to spend, but it goes to the organization, so I'm going to be willing to spend that. Then if I get wind afterwards that only $500 of that money went to the organization and that somebody else basically sold a Costco trip, is the way it would feel to me, then I'm going to maybe be less inclined to come back the following year and bid as strongly. So this is just me saying that. This is not, I have nothing except, same experience you guys have to back that up.
No, and I think it's a valid concern.
It
and
is.
One that is a very notable in our minds. Because for years we have said, don't bother with consignment items because it's going to take money out of your room. there are different ways to kind of view that. And I think your concerns are valid. And why we have such a distinct nature to kind of go away from them is because there are better ways to leverage those dollars in the room if you don't need a consignment package that's going to incur overhead.
Yeah, and you can't be completely forthcoming that this is a purchased item.
Yeah. And
that's difficult. I don't understand why we can't be, but it's kind of a,
it's kind of an unsaid rule, isn't it?
Don't talk to people that we bought this, and we can sell as many as we want if we get 10 grand for them. You know what I'm saying? That to me feels hinky, but it's not. It's not at all. It just feels that way, So those are my two reasons why I probably won't ever love consignment items. I think that also I believe that we got to be as
transparent.
We have to be transparent in today's world, especially. It's no different than buying a car. Today, buying a car is way different than it was even 10 years ago because people can just go get educated online.
Yeah.
And they know what they're spending on the car. They know what the thing is with the car. They can get Carfax. So the salesman isn't as much what he used to be.
I mean,
I feel that way about this.
I think you're onto something. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if that transparency comes into the ballrooms with these consignment packages. And I'm having a hard time trying to figure out why it shouldn't be surfaced.
Absolutely. If the people know that they're only, that this is the minimum cost. But I don't know how to do that.
Yeah, unless it's a reflection on the board or the organization because they didn't fully procure an item. That would be one downside.
And you could even state that in the catalog. Because people were lazy and didn't go out and do this is what we got.
Well, in the catalog, it said...
Totally joking.
Minimum bid required. That was the last sentence. It was a whole page of description, and the last line said minimum bid. Now, that is... very ambiguous because it doesn't really say why the minimum is. Now, from an auctioneer's perspective, I feel like I'm not going to cut my legs out from underneath of me by saying, ladies and gentlemen, the very next item has we have to buy it for $6,500, so I can't sell it for any less than that. Okay, off we go. You're cutting your legs out from under. Wouldn't you agree with me?
Totally agree with that. Yeah, I totally agree with you guys. But
I don't know. I mean,
think you can still put it in the catalog.
That's kind of like changing for me over time. You know what I mean? There's so many different aspects that go into that. Yeah, and I'll leave it at that. In terms of a minimum bid, like there's multiple ways to approach that. One would be to start it at the minimum bid and kind of go it from there. The other would be to get the bidding going and carry it up there with the power in the ballroom. And if you don't
which is what you would do.
And if you don't get there, you just say, hey, sorry, you're not going to meet the minimum and move on, which can really leave kind of a heavy moment on the ballroom. So, I mean, there's multiple ways to approach that. I like the idea of surfacing it. And I know there's individuals that we've worked with for years that kind of start at that minimum and go up from there. And I've seen it work on multiple occasions. One thing that I did see play out in the ballroom this weekend for me was that we had a trip that was to Mexico. It was advertised as 4 individuals. A group bought it as a girls' weekend. We're going to go down to Mexico and enjoy ourselves. Go and look at the certificate later that night, and it says for 2 adults and 2 kids, or 1 adult and 3 kids.
Oh, wow.
So it was advertised as 4 adults. It was sold as 4 adults.
Super big trouble there.
Yeah, so what's going to happen is they're going to have to buy another certificate to fulfill the promises made, or they're going to have to unwind the deal altogether.
Or there's another way around it. 3 of your friends are going to have to act like children, which I don't think should be a problem.
No.
If you're doing a ladies' trip to Mexico, 3 of you can act like a kid.
It's called tequila.
Not that we support drinking tequila. However, Don Julio may have you buy a timeshare. I've heard. Yeah. I don't know.
Oh my gosh. Well, I know we've kind of been bouncing around a little bit.
That's a great topic, though.
It is. We talked about consignments. We talked about advertising the catalog. You had a pretty good show this weekend as well, which is going to lead into our topic for the day. So tell us a little bit about your weekend, Kelly.
Weekend was a great weekend. It's always a great weekend. I don't want to talk too much about the organization because they're a very private organization, but the people that are involved in this organization are is salt of the earth when it comes to who they're serving, and the people that they're serving have a grand need, and it's it's military influenced, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful thing. However, what I did really hats off to them, because they spoke outwardly about. Are we boring you, Shelby?
No, not at all.
Okay, because you're just looking on your Facebook there.
I was checking my phone. Yes, okay. I was doing a thing. Yeah.
Sorry. I enjoyed that. Sorry. I saw something on a Real Housewives of Beverly Hills where Andy Cohen yawned, and I've been waiting for an opportunity for one of you to do something that I can say that. So there you go. It's done. Anyway, on to what it is. They outwardly spoke about the purpose of their organization is changing. And they had stated how what their initial movement was completed, and now there's a bigger need, there's a stronger need, and now we have to keep that need in front of people, and we have to ask for dollars to satisfy that need, and it's an ongoing need. Again, I can't speak too specifically about it, but your needs are going to change post-pandemic. They are, and I feel like it's important to jockey or help me, move to the new need.
You're going to outgrow the building that you purchased, and now you need to maintain what it's going to cost to heat the building, right?
Right.
You've paid for the building, now we got to pay for the maintenance. That's kind of where you're going, right?
Yeah.
The need is morphing.
It is.
We asked you to help us buy this building, which you did. Now we got to maintain it.
Mm-hmm. Like, your end goal is going to change.
Your end goal is going to change. Right? And it's okay to deliver that message to your audience, as well as change your gala to fit it. So that means that you're going to have to really possibly procure differently, and that's where we go to the what we just talked about. You may have to look at your items differently. You may have to look at massaging your audience a little bit better, and really letting them know ongoing what the need is, what we are changing. Or halfway through, send everybody that showed up to the gala the year before a picture of all the lights out in the building and say, whoops, we need money for lights. Keep it light, keep it simple,
Sure.
Do whatever, because any need is not light, any need is not simple, and so anytime we can maybe bring it forward in a less uncomfortable way, I don't know, help me.
I think that kind of what you're getting at is you have the attention of a very specific group of people in whatever room that you are in, or whoever you are in front of in terms of these benefit auctions. You have the attention of that group for a very short amount of time, and your goal is to leverage the dollars in that room against a need of some kind. Now, in terms of the organization you're talking about maybe not rehabilitating, but helping veterans, helping those that have served our country, right? And whatever capacity that takes, whether it be programs or housing or wherever that need takes you, it's your goal to kind of move those individuals whose attention you have towards that end goal. Now, that end goal is going to change, to Paul's point. It might be a new building this year, and it might be heating the building next year. But at the end of the day, what you're trying to do is get that group of people to focus on one end goal every year and slightly change it. We've been doing this for a long time, and there's been times that we've got into communities, and schools come to mind as an example, and one year they will fund a curriculum. Well, there's somebody that doesn't agree with that curriculum, and that supporter drops off for that year. So your goal at that point is to try to bring that donor back in some capacity the next year, or you say, nope, this is the direction we're going. I'm sorry, you're not going to support us, and that individual is going to fall off. So all that to say, you are peddling in the attention of your supporters, and trying to shift that end goal or mission year over year is really where you see longevity in these fundraising events.
Yeah, it can't be rubber stamped. And I think prior to the pandemic, and I'm looking forward to the day that we stop saying pandemic. But we are still on the outside of it, because I think it's like the end of October, I've heard, is when you don't have to go into a doctor's office with a mask, I think. No. But yeah, I've heard that, but I don't know if that's true. We are moving forward. It's slow though, right? And it's supposed to be slow because there's that learning curve. But my point is that Prior to that, it was just year after year the same thing. You get your audience together, you get your venue picked out, you get this done, We all know what the mission is. We come here, we get our fund and need speaker. That's great. We do this, and the end result is we scoop in the money. We've talked about shaking it up. We've talked about change. We've talked about being mindful of your supporters. We've talked about procuring, items that you have to pay for. We've talked about all of that. And those are all important pieces to the post change that we all have to do. Look, don't be afraid of changing, because you have to. You have to change. But you have to tell your people that you're changing. See, if you don't tell your people you're changing, then they feel like they're doing the same thing they did 2-3 years ago. And it's not. It's different today.
It would be different if we're funding cancer research, because that's a very specific funding need ask.
Very important.
It can be consistent throughout the life of your cancer event if that's what you're doing. But not all events are like that, right? Like this last weekend, we have been providing care for cats for so many years that they have outgrown the building, right? So now we need another building off-site, well, on the same property, and that is the beginning of another campaign. And that's what they announced. Okay, here's what, we've got so many cats, we need a bigger building, right? So that is where they're going.
It's a very good point.
That's what you guys have been helping us with medical needs.
I don't know what's happening right now. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Am I boring you?
No, not at all. I'm just thinking we launched from cancer to cats, but it's good. You're right. You're absolutely right.
That's a good point.
But it's wonderful, and it's a good. I support it.
I support it.
Great recovery there.
I don't know what the laughing thing is about. Please don't misunderstand it. But
guess who does the editing? Anyway.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that. Because gonna need it today.
I was trying to piggyback on your idea of the funding need ask is going to morph and change.
Yeah.
And you have to just be clear in your message that, hey, we've succeeded in getting this building. Now we need to pay for heating it or fixing it or repairing it. Yeah. I was kind of trying to piggyback on where
that's a valid point. It's true.
Yeah, you mentioned the word pandemic. We are coming out of the pandemic, and this does feel like a reset once again. And what we're going through right now is figuring out what that next goal is. In the past, you would kind of have a fundraiser, and you'd hear from Jimmy, oh, I kind of want to do this. And Jane would say, hey, I want to do that next year. And you would be able to give that immediate feedback and course correct year over year. Well, we took a few years off. Now you have individuals that are new to the organization that want to do this, but they don't know how to do this, and it's causing a little strain on some of these organizations. But at the end of the day, your goal is to bring these people together, have them focus on one goal, and then what forks are you going to deploy in order to attack that goal, right? If it's to allow felines to have a more healthy lifestyle, what are you going to do this year? And then how's it going to change and evolve next year to reach the end goal of helping those feline friends, right?
Yes. Furry feline friends.
Furry feline friends.
And that's what makes our auctioneer so good. We can go from cancer to cats, just like that.
Cats with cancer.
Without even a thought. Yeah.
Without even a
thought. It is what it is, right? I would like to know why we're not talking about dogs, too. But that's fine. I get it. Anyway.
Said the dog person.
Said the dog lover. Here's my thing. And don't edit that, because I am a dog lover.
Yes,
anyway, I want to say something, Shelby.
Okay,
and I think I might have lost it because of everybody talking, but I don't think so. Get your head off your hand there. Where I was going was not going to happen for this moment.
Guess what, guys? We're doing a Q&A next week.
It's Tuesday, right?
On Tuesday, and we would love for you to join us. We know that people have been signing up for the newsletter.
It came. It's here. Sorry, it's here. Here's also a quick thought. If anybody is watching this, we would appreciate you to hear this. So here's the thing. Turn your silent auctions right now into Christmas shopping for people, because Amazon is doing this early Christmas thing. Good Lord, Best Buy, Walmart, everybody. Turn your silent auction. This is a great brainstorm. Yeah.
It's not even November
It doesn't
yet,
matter.
And you're telling us to Black Friday
Yes.
shop?
I am telling you, name your silent auction Black Friday silent.
Maybe don't go with that idea.
Why? Think about it.
Oh, I'm thinking about it.
These guys are not the guys that are going to be buying all the gifts. So
This is
I'm just
true.
saying, do it.
I like it. Well, I mean, and it's
Do
funny
it.
with the silent auctions specifically because it feels like people are missing them. Some of the people that have gone with online auctions since the pandemic played out, now they're like, what do we do for an hour and a half? We need something to bid on. Maybe we should bring the silent back. Have
And
you
they
guys
talk
noticed
like that too. They go, what do we do?
What do we do?
Oh my
Oh
God.
my God, what do we do? Oh,
Come
Go
on,
to the
Polly.
bar and get drunk.
Oh my God.
Edit. Cut.
Edit, yeah.
And
Yeah.
cut.
And then
joke.
just come into the live when you're all nice and tuned up.
Yeah.
Look how big my hands were when I did that.
Tuesday, next week, we're doing a Q&A. It's going to be at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, so if you'd like to plug in your East Coast or West Coast, you can definitely join us.
It could also be a TNA, which is tips and answers.
Tips and answers, we're good to go all day.
I like that. Oh my God.
TNA here at Stokes Auction Group, tips and answers.
That is exactly right. But guess what? It is October, and essentially we were doing a 15% off for a couple of months. So I'm going to go behind the scenes. I'm going to roll
that's
a board.
today.
That is a board. That is the deal.
Figure out who the winner is.
And I'll make a sound.
The tips and what?
Tips and answers.
Tips and answers. I
TNA.
like that.
That could get some buzz.
Could get some traction.
TNA, tips and answers.
Yeah.
Click to spin.
Okay, we're going to click spin.
We're clicking to spin. Ready?
Okay, we're looking at the screen. It's a spin
Is it
wheel.
spinning?
All right, let's see if we can't bring this up.
Yeah, and can you make it spin a little faster? I mean, holy smokes.
So
There it is.
Here it is.
Here it is. Spin fast.
And spin.
9. No.
10.
10. Yay. Clapping. Clapping. Clapping.
Number 10 is...
Over
Oh,
Lake.
you've got to be kidding me.
Over Lake Medical Center? No. No.
That's Olympic
Ol-
Medical Center.
Olympic Medical Center.
Olympic
Yay!
Medical
Exactly right. Congratulations, Brucey.
Bruce, we're going to send you 15 bananas. No? Is that what they won? No? Oh, 15%. Got it.
15 bananas.
15 potassium bananas. Have a banana.
So Olympic Medical Center, you're awesome. In fact, I have just signed up for the Washington fundraising conference, which is going to be taken in November, and a lot of that was due to Bruce. So Bruce, we appreciate you. If you have not
When is
signed
that?
up, it's the first week in November. So if you want to be involved in that, it's in Bellevue. Look it up. Great organization, been around for years, and we're excited to be on one of the panels and
That's
also
awesome.
attend. So it's going to be good.
Couldn't happen to a better client.
Could not have.
Couldn't
How long
happen
has
to
you
a
been
better
a part of
client.
it?
I will tell you, not only
Forever.
that, and during our virtual time, I got to tell you, huge supporter there. A lot of people supported us during virtual time. The auction we just did this last weekend actually had us in their magazine supporting our virtual stuff. So we appreciate that as well. So thank you, Bruce, and Olympic Medical.
That's right.
That's
yeah.
awesome.
And great fundraiser on the peninsula. Been doing it for years. Skinner and his team, top notch. So we're going to wind this podcast down. Thank you so much for joining us this week. And in the weeks to come, we are constantly just trying to make the world a better place. If you want more of us, you can find more in our descriptions wherever you're watching. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube with a video version if you have not watched any of that. And if you're listening on a podcatcher, 5 stars, please. That helps us go and grow as a podcast with our marketing efforts. Have a good day.
Go out, be bold, be creative.
Be courageous.
And go do good.
Woohoo!
Bye.
Bye.
Wild.
And that was our daily podcast.